Hello and welcome to One Trek Mind with me, Michael.
And me, Raptor.
And today we're going to be discussing the third episode of this new season for Strange New Worlds, Shuttle to Kenfori. Right off the bat, before we jump into the recap, I will say I'm a little mixed on this one, leaning towards positive.
Interesting. Well, I shall briefly summarize the episode for us then. We're told that the Enterprise is on a routine scanning mission when Pike finds Patel unconscious in his quarters, where it's revealed that she's suffering from a side effect of the Gorn parasites and the infection that tried to kill her in episode 1. It's revealed there's a cure, a type of flower called a chimera blossom, but it's found on a planet that's in a no-fly zone on the Klingon Federation border. Basically, getting there is almost impossible. Pike and M'Benga decide to do a off-the-record mission in order to go and get the flower. In the shuttle on the way to the planet, M'Benga and Pike get a message from a Klingon warning beacon which essentially reads, "Go back or die." So clearly something bad has happened to this planet. On the planet, they find that there's absolutely no animal life whatsoever, just flora, which is a pretty concerning thing considering the planet is basically a jungle. Jungles don't tend to have no animals. On the way, they kind of have a few nice the sort of conversations you would expect friends to have. They talk about Corby and Christine, and M'Benga reveals he's been divorced multiple times, and basically they're just, it's obvious they're good friends when not on duty. Which I thought was good to see. But they do find some concerning signs, many dead bodies, including a Klingon whose entire rib cage has been ripped open, which is not a good sign. They find an abandoned Federation base and the Chimera blossoms. All seems good, but Pike finds more of the dead bodies around the blossoms. Back on the Enterprise, they discover a masked Klingon vessel nearby keeping an eye on things, which is going to be important later on. Back on the planet, Pike and M'Benga are attacked by a Klingon hunting party that show up out of the nowhere, opens fire on their shuttle, destroying it, and leaves them trapped on the planet, with Klingons soon barging into the base. And it's nice that we get some proper Klingons and proper Klingonese after that absolutely dreadful stuff that Discovery tried to give us in Season 1. Pike and M'Benga retreat deeper into the facility away from the Klingons, and the two groups have a brief firefight until something attacks them from the bushes, and it's revealed that basically the Klingons and humans that were left on this planet have all been infected by plants and turned into basically zombies. This is Star Trek does The Last of Us. On the ship, Patel is in a huge amount of pain, and Spock decides to have a mind meld with her to try to reduce the pain, but the mind meld sort of goes wrong. I'm not 100% clear what happens, but basically it looks like some bit of the Gorn young that was in Patel is still somehow in there, and it makes Spock go a bit nuts and punch the poor old new nurse, who still has no name. We still don't know the name of this nurse.
He'll get a name eventually, but for now, he's just the new ensign.
So something is definitely still in Patel Gorn related. By this point, the Enterprise is fully aware that Pike and M'Benga are in trouble, and so Una holds a meeting to try to come up with a solution to getting them out. Ortegas comes up with this quite radical plan of warping the ship into low atmosphere, beaming them up, and then warping out again before the Klingon battlecruiser that's still there sees them. But Una decides to go with Spock's more conventional plan of just slowly sneaking up to the planet. Ortegas is clearly not impressed that she gets a sort of rebuke, and she directs some of this unhappiness at Uhura, seemingly unhappy that Uhura didn't sort of bat for her in the meeting. To which Una and La'an discuss the situation, fully aware that Ortegas might be back on duty too early. Back on the planet, Pike and M'Benga run into an old lab that was utilised for the experiments going on the planet, and it turns out that basically what was going on was they were combining the Chimera plant with a bunch of super effective moss, basically invulnerable, immortal moss. And they created a hybrid super plant which devours everything that is not a plant, and that's essentially what's going on now that's what's created the zombies. So again, it is very The Last of Us with its cordyceps. M'Benga and Pike argue about what is actually going on, and M'Benga reveals that Patel has agreed to utilize the Chimera Blossom's sort of hybridization capabilities to hybridize her human DNA with the Gorn DNA that's still in her, essentially creating a human-Gorn hybrid of some description. Pike is understandably kind of pissed about this, about not being told about what's really going on, but M'Benga reveals that basically this is Patel's final chance. If this doesn't work, she's dead in a few days' time. Zombies swarm in, creating a distraction. They have to run away. The Klingons, who are still around, kill the zombies, but technically capture Pike and M'Benga. On the roof, they get to the roof where there's a communications array that they can use to escape, and it's revealed that the lead Klingon woman of this group, whose shuttlecraft reminded me heavily of a Dune ornithopter, complete with sort of almost shivering wings on the side.
I definitely got that vibe from it.
They use force fields to protect themselves in the center of this tower from zombies that are all around them, and the Klingon reveals that she knows M'Benga because she is the daughter of Ambassador Ra, the Klingon that M'Benga may or may not have, we'll get to that in a second, killed in season 2, I believe.
Yeah, it was late last season.
She's come in order to get justice, or so it seems. Enterprise starts its plan to sneak to the planet, but they struggle and get spotted, even though they're supposed to be traveling at a very slow speed. So they have to switch to Ortegas' plan instead. M'Benga and Ra's daughter have a chat down on the planet. It's revealed that Ambassador Ra's attempts to create a peaceful solution with the Federation basically got the entirety of his house discommendated by the Klingon Empire, which is what we saw happen to Worf in The Next Generation, and naturally Ra's daughter is kind of pissed, and she wanted to kill her father to regain the house's honor, but M'Benga did it first, or that's what she believes. So her plan is to kill M'Benga and therefore regain honor for her house. She forces the situation, and M'Benga eventually admits in a rather, I'm not sure if chilling is the right way to put across the way he speaks about it, but it is it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. He sort of slips into this sort of Hyde personality where he admits to killing the ambassador and doesn't care about it. As far as he's concerned, the guy was a monster and he has no sympathy for killing him, and if he had to do it again, he would. Ra's daughter then demands M'Benga fight her, which he accepts the challenge, and they have quite a brutal fight with one another, but in the end M'Benga gets the upper hand, but refuses to kill her. Back on the Enterprise, Ortegas' plan manages to get the ship into the upper atmosphere and then get the ship through the atmosphere, not without the artificial gravity going offline, however. In order to ensure M'Benga and Pike's escape, Ambassador Ra's daughter decides to attract the zombies to her, and thus dying in a honourable way to the zombies, while Pike and M'Benga are grabbed by the Enterprise, who just about gets away before the Klingon D7 battlecruiser puts a photon torpedo up its ass. At the end of the episode, it's revealed they're starting Patel's therapy. Pike and M'Benga have a conversation with one another about what was revealed down on the planet, and Pike admits that even if the mission had been on the record, he would not turn M'Benga in for his crime, and he would lie to protect his friend, which I have some things to say about that, but we'll get to that in a second. Una discovers that Ortegas basically forced the situation, deliberately made Spock's plan fail, and has a stern conversation with her about breaking orders and insubordination. Ortegas doesn't respond particularly well to it, and Una warns her that this can't happen again and takes her off duty for 2 weeks. but it's quite clear that this is going to be probably a problem that surfaces again. Pike and Patel talk about what Patel is planning and what she kept hidden from Christopher all this time. It's a tough conversation, but the episode ends with them hugging each other, both scared for what the future may hold, and that's where the episode ends. So, yeah, I am mixed about this as well for various reasons, but let's start with the first thing. Star Trek doing zombies. Did it work?
On one hand, I would say yes. On one hand, I would say no. I think my issue with it is the zombie genre is a very saturated one at this point. So if you're gonna put your 2 cents into that kind of genre, you have to be pretty impressive with it. And I didn't find these zombies massively impressive or anything. They were just your box standard zombies, but they were covered in moss. So I was like, I don't hate that Star Trek did zombies. Like, I think that actually is kind of a fun idea. Like, why not? In the vast universe, I'm sure there is something zombie adjacent or like somewhere out there. So I was fine with that.
Enterprise had its zombie episode with its Vulcans who had gone mad due to Trellium D poisoning.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that was zombies. That was just, like, insanity. They just ripped each other apart and killed each other.
True, but it was the same sort of
straight up zombies. Like, they're devouring anything that's alive. And yeah, I don't hate that they used it here. I just feel like what they did end up putting on screen for the zombies was kind of lackluster.
Uninspiring. I mean, it is basically
I think
The
it could
Last
have been
of
more
Us,
interesting.
essentially.
I think The Last of Us is far more interesting than what we got here.
Oh, well, in terms of, like, their plant zombies, essentially.
Yeah, but I mean, even the look of them, I think, is a lot better in The Last of Us. Here, again, it was just, like, mossy zombies, which, it was okay. It was kind of neat to see, like, a Klingon zombie. I'll admit that. I was like, that's pretty cool. But
yeah, it was fine, but I'm kind of with you. It felt very, this is going to come across really bad, but it's like, is Star Trek not a little bit more highbrow, serious for the cliche zombie thing? I don't know. It's like, I'm not sure zombies...
I don't think so. Like, I think Star Trek has many times proven that, it likes to play around with things, and the zombie genre is one that, aside from kind of doing it in Enterprise, they haven't really done it. So I was fine with that. I just thought what we got was just a little too box standard for me. I was kind of hoping for there to be a more interesting sci-fi twist to these zombies, but they were just zombies. Like, nothing really to it other than that. So yeah, didn't hate it, didn't love it.
I kind of wish that we had gotten more about the stuff on the ship, Ortegas clearly having difficulties.
See, I feel like we got a good amount of it here. I mean, we're constantly cutting back and forth between what's going on the planet and Ortegas. So I feel like we got a pretty solid amount here. Like, and I like the way it's being depicted with Ortegas. Like, I'll just jump into kind of a segue. Like, my favorite part of this episode is Ortegas and her storyline. I think with her kind of acting normal towards other people, but clearly having something a little more serious going on underneath is a very well done way to do this kind of storyline. It feels real to me. And in general, I think some of the best scenes and some of the best Star Trek moments were in that storyline in this episode. I really enjoyed seeing Una being, I would say, a very good leader in this episode. Like, she listens to Ortegas's idea, but is
not
definitely, she's not convinced. She's like, I hear what you're saying, but your plan sounds a whole lot riskier than the one that Spock is putting forward. So we're going to go with that one based off of the information we have. And then when Ortegas acts insubordinately and gets them caught and everything, I feel like the way Una reprimanded her was very professional and very fair as well. Like, she could have gone a lot harder on her, I think.
Oh, very
if
much
she,
so.
She wanted to, but...
if this was Picard, it would be like written. It would be on your report. I'll be filing you for this and that, and it'd be longer lasting than just 2 weeks off duty. That's for sure.
Yeah, but again, I think she handled herself very well in that situation, while being as understanding as she possibly can to Ortegas, and even tells her straight up, like, hey, this cannot happen again, or it's going to be a lot worse than what's going on right now. So I was a big fan of number 1 in this episode, and I really liked what they're doing with Ortegas and her story. I'm glad to see her get a story finally.
Yes.
It's not the story I would have expected for her character, but I'm all here for it. But then there's the stuff with M'Benga, which I didn't dislike. I would just say I was really mixed on a lot of the stuff in there. Well, I guess there's also a C plot with everything going on with Batel and that moment with Spock and everything, which we'll come back to that in a second.
Okay.
M'Benga, I think he very clearly confessed to murdering Dakra here.
He did, yes. He confessed to killing the guy and was happy.
Yeah, I don't think it was
so.
An act.
No.
That little moment at the end where they're just like, oh, you just told a story to save your friend. I'm like, nope. He assuredly told the truth right there. And I will say, I like that choice. That is exactly what I thought happened when we watched the previous episode. Afterwards, I was like, I'm pretty sure he killed that guy in cold blood. And even though that's debatably a bad thing to do, because I think there is a strong argument for the man is a war criminal who massacred many, many people, and his death could be seen as justice. You could also very much argue the opposite way, that he was a reformed man or attempting to be a reformed man and you murdered him in cold blood. So I see both arguments completely equally, but I think it makes M'Benga a lot more interesting of a character that he knowingly killed that man because he wanted revenge. Or in the way he put it, it was justice what I did. And I was like,
yep,
this makes you a lot muddier of a character, which I love it. I think having those types of characters in Star Trek in particular is very interesting.
Yes, I agree. I think it does make him more interesting, and I think some people might say, oh, well, it gets away from Gene's vision that in the future people won't, humans don't fall prey to their urges for revenge and all that stuff. Stuff that First Contact played with, and what people who were writing stories for TNG absolutely hated, because at the end of the day, you can't have drama without conflict. People have to be imperfect for there to be good stories about them. So yeah, I'm not against making M'Benga the killer of a horrible person. I am, however, a bit against Pike basically turning around at the end of the episode and saying, even if this was on the record, even if I had to report Starfleet, I would just tell them you told a story, and I would basically lie to protect you because you're a friend.
You see, I like that. Is that kind of bad captaining? Yes. Is that being a really good friend? Yes. And I would personally, considering how close the two are, I would value that friendship over my captaincy in that moment. Kind of the same thing that he did for Una, where he very clearly lied about that.
For some crimes, perhaps, but the straight-up murder of a Klingon ambassador,
who was an awful war criminal, and again, on the other side of that argument, very much deserved to be killed. So
I feel that this comes down to, if I was to use a parlance that you would get, do you accept Batman's vigilante justice as acceptable or not? You can't just allow Starfleet officers to go around murdering people that they perceive as Klingon war criminals.
Well, Batman doesn't murder anyone, so...
But you get my point. It's the vigilante justice or personal justice versus actual justice, I suppose, or state justice.
It's
we
a
saw it
slippery
in
slope, but
we saw it in Battlestar Galactica as well, with the group that started flushing people out of an airlock because they were part of the Cylon government that took over New Caprica.
But none of them committed like mass genocide, which again, I don't know. I feel like I hold both arguments of whether M'Benga should or should not have killed him in equal regard. I get where you're coming from, but if I were Pike in that same situation and I was told by him like, no, yeah, I did kill him and I'd do it again, I'd be like, well, that does make me look at you a little different, but I also would not report it.
So, I mean, you said you were very mixed about this episode, but on the whole, it seems like you're relatively positive about many of its choices. So I'm curious as to what are your criticisms, apart from the zombie thing being kind of uninspiring?
I did find the pacing of this episode really off. Like, it was really fast during certain moments, then slowed way down, then sped up, then slowed down, and it just felt off kilter. I didn't feel like it was structured super well. I wasn't the biggest fan. Well, again, I don't know how I feel about this one, which is, I would say the main reason I'm very mixed on this episode, is the Gorn human hybrid story. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing with this? Because if we're just going down like a fairly straightforward route where this is the only way for her to survive, and as a result there's going to be some like strange side effects, then okay, sure. But I'm concerned we're going to go into like Battelle becoming like a fucking monster or something as a result of this,
or Jurassic World Rebirth again.
Yeah, like I don't know. Again, that coupled with the scene where Spock is like seeing through Gorn eyes, because I'm assuming she's not only has the DNA in her, which is causing that, but also she's thinking about the fact that she's about to become like a Gorn human hybrid. I'm super nervous about wherever we're taking that story, but I don't want to prejudge it when I know next to nothing about where they're taking this. Like, all we have right now is that Battelle is going to fuse part of her DNA with the Gorn DNA in order to survive. And I'm like, I'm so nervous. What we have right now is fine, but I am so nervous about that.
I'll tell you the thing about this which kind of bugged me, is that last episode they made a big deal of showing us that everything is fine. Like, she was recovering perfectly well. She was looking for her next starship. It had been months, 3 months, and she was recovering perfectly fine. And now, all of a sudden, oh my god, she's dying again.
Well, I was fine with that, because, I mean, that is how many illnesses work. Like, they remain dormant for long periods of time, and then all of a sudden, it's a serious issue.
I just feel like this could have just been episode 2. This could have been part of that, the episode I would want there in episode 2 of the recovery process. This could have been, we need to get this stuff to help her recover from this infection. Let's do the mission to go and get the stuff to help her recover from the mission. We can have Ortega still being kind of iffy. That suits it, because, it's the episode after the Gorn stuff. And then we could have the wedding episode where everything is fine and she's recovering. I don't know. This episode I don't like them pulling a bait and switch on the whole she's fine. Actually, she's not. Just so that we can have this episode go and do zombie thing. It just feels a bit out of place for me, but that's a personal choice,
Yeah, because I'm not bothered by them taking a breather in between and then jumping into this again, because it's clear both Battelle and Ortegas are going to be getting like extended storylines all throughout the season. So I'm fine with them every once in a while just taking a break to get away from like the seriousness of those two storylines, just to have a little fun for a bit, which it looks like that's what we're getting next week, because that's going to be the Space Adventure Hour episode, which I'm assuming is the period drama looking episode we saw in the trailers, I think. So once again, it looks like we are going to be going from some more serious topics in this episode to something really light and fun in the next one. And I imagine we'll continue to do that throughout the season, kind of just jump back and forth between the two so that neither starts feeling stale, which is how I look at it. I feel like if you were to do 5 episodes in a row that are all very serious and somewhat grim, it would just feel dragged out and kind of stale the way some Discovery seasons were, where you're just going and going and going and going.
True. I mean, I'll wait to see the rest of the season to figure out if I like them doing it that way or not, because I like structure and the constant swinging wildly of tone from one end to the other. It's not something I particularly enjoy. I'm all happy about, if you want to do something lighthearted after some serious stuff, that's fine. But like, if you're going to keep serious stuff going on, especially if it's related to other things that have already happened, just do it all together and then do the light stuff. I that's the way I look at it anyway. But we'll see we'll see how the whole season goes.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, there isn't much to say really about this episode apart from Star Trek does zombies. I was kind of hoping we'd have a bit of a, the Enterprise versus a D7, the classic original series standoff between the two leading ships of the various of the Federation and the Klingon Empire, which we haven't had yet, and I really want it.
I mean, they might be intentionally not doing it because that is kind of Captain Kirk's thing. Maybe they'll wait.
Perhaps.
Maybe they'll wait for him to take the helm at the end of the show or during an episode, which it looks like we might get this season. They did have a moment in the trailer that at least alludes to him taking the captain's chair for at least a moment. Yeah, maybe they're just waiting for Kirk to be the one in the chair for that, just because it is very much his thing.
Yeah, it's the one thing I feel that is kind of missing actually, I would say it's been missing from Star Trek for a while. It's just a proper good old, like, starship versus starship proper brawl. I mean, I know we had one at the end of season 1 of Strange New Worlds, but it was basically a copycat episode of TOA. I want to see a wholly original ship versus ship fight here, just because I like it. And I feel like the last time we've had that was probably like Star Trek Nemesis or something, because not even Discovery really did it justice, at least in my opinion.
I would look forward to a classic ship-on-ship battle. Like, we get it a lot in the animated shows. I'm assuming because it's a lot
easier.
Cheaper. Like, it's cheaper to animate it rather than, have to pay all these artists to do these, like, crazy CGI shots and everything. But maybe they're saving up their budget for something like that in this season. It is entirely possible. Again, this show, very much like Legacy Trek, feels like they conserve their budget for big moments. Like, they definitely intentionally reuse a lot of sets. They intentionally keep things fairly simplistic so they can do, like, the big thing like every once in a while in their seasons. So I think there's a good shot we could get a nice, ship battle at some point this season.
Have to wait and see what happens. Yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments section down below if you've seen this episode. What did you think of Star Trek doing zombies? Is this something you think it did very well or not? Be interested to see what your thoughts are down below. And don't forget while you're there to give the video a like, and please do consider subscribing if you're new to the channel to help us get out of our little stall that we seem to be at. I think YouTube the algorithm is going against us at the moment, so any help you can do is very much appreciated. We'll see you next Thursday for the next episode, but until then, it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from me.